Good morning. Hello, everybody. Morning. I started it a couple minutes early, just so that there's some time for everybody to sign in. Hi. Get settled. Props that you're going to want to use for today. So this is yin. Don't really know how long we're going to practice for. 40 minutes to an hour-ish. We'll just see how it goes. Instagram cuts me off at 1 hour, so we know that's the max. If you have to sign out, if you have to leave, you can find this saved to the Moto Yoga North Fan IGTV, and you can watch it later. Yes, some of you haven't seen my new hair. It's very bright. But yes, as I was saying, props. So props for today, I recommend getting like a big couch cushion or something of that nature. So this is literally just a big cushion off of my couch. It could be, thank you. It could be a bed pillow, that's fine too. Just something a bit firm and structured and quite large, okay? We will be using that, as well as if you have yoga blocks, awesome. Grab them, you will want them. Other things that you could use in place of yoga blocks would be maybe if you have like foam rollers or a couple water bottles, like the bigger, like heftier water bottles, but kind of equal size. Excuse me, or just stacking up some books. Just something that can hold the weight of your upper body. We're gonna be putting our hands on them. So yeah, we have about another minute or two here. So grab your water, grab your props, roll out your mat if you have one, get settled, and yeah, we'll get going shortly here. Just gonna have some water myself. While we're waiting for everybody to get their props and come back, we're going to start in a toe sit. And Tim, I see you're watching. This is your favorite, isn't it? We won't be here forever. This is a really, really great way to warm up before a yin practice, to start loosening up the fascial connections that start in the soles of our feet and run all the way up the back of our legs, connecting into our low back. So to do toe sit, if you're not familiar with it, you come onto your knees. And I'm just sitting hips to heels on my knees. And I'm going to lean forward onto my hands and tuck my toes behind me. And so if you were behind me, it would look like this. So I'm tucking all 10 toes. I'm going to reach back and tuck that little pinky toe as well. And I'm sitting my hips onto my heels. Now, as you first come into this, you might not feel a ton, but it will start to build. So I do actually recommend leaning forward just slightly rather than leaning back. So you could take a block or a book or a water bottle or something here. Just leaning forward slightly so there's not a ton of weight of hips to heels. Just getting used to the sensation of your toes being tucked under to start. Take a couple breaths. Now you can stay here, or you can start to just sit back a little bit. So I'm going to sit back and just rest a bit more weight, hips into heels here in this toe sit. And so this is going to add to the intensity. I'm keeping those toes tucked under. And you can just observe where in your foot you're feeling this. So probably started fairly isolated around the toes themselves, and by now you're probably noticing that that sensation is starting to go up maybe into the arch of your foot, maybe towards the ankles, possibly even starting to creep up towards the lower part of your shin. Noticing your calves. Just feeling how that sensation starts to spread. And so what you're feeling here is this fascial tissue. Fascia is our prime area that we're targeting in a yin yoga practice. It's very, it's elastic, but it's quite rigid. It's quite stiff, and it needs time to kind of warm it up. And once you've warmed it up, then it's a bit more malleable. It'll start to stretch. We lubricate it with these movements as well, keeping it healthy, all of this fluid going into them. And these fascial tissues are very important because it's kind of a strange description, but it's almost like the casing of a sausage. It wraps our entire body. My daughter's in the background laughing at me, but it's true. All of our organs are encased in it, our bones, our body, everything would fall apart without this fascial tissue. It's very important. And so we need to take the time to stretch it. And by now you're probably thinking, Cami, when are we coming out of this? Yeah, I'm getting some dirty looks from my husband over here. The sensation is probably built. I am doing it with you. It's okay. Nobody ever died from doing toe sit. It's a really, really good example of the powerful lesson to be found within a yin yoga practice here. Can you learn to sit with comfortable discomfort? So while this is not entirely pleasant, can you sit with it for 3 more breaths? That's all you have to do. Okay, now don't rush out of this. Listening carefully. Start to lean forward. Take some weight off those toes. Place your hands on the floor. And really slowly savor the coming out. This is the best part. Feels so good. Now you can tap out your toes. Some people like to tap out their toes. I like to actually just place them down and sit back onto my heels. I like just the solid weight. So either tap them out, or just sit for a moment. Just let your toes relax. Let the soles of your feet relax. Take a deep breath in through your nose. And exhale. Okay. So, now that we have started to warm some stuff up here, I'm going to tap on my feet a bit more. Take that stiffer, more rigid pillow that I recommended you get at the beginning of your practice. You'll want it for this next pose. I'm going to turn to the side so that you can see me. So to start, we're going to come into a wide knee child's pose. But from there, we're going to come into frog. And so this is where this pillow is going to really come in handy. But starting in a wide knee child's pose, so separating your knees so they're about the distance of your mat. Big toes can touch behind you, keeping your hips low for now. And just lie down over top of the pillow. Just take a few breaths here, settling in, seeing how child's pose feels through your hips and your low back. And if you're looking off to one side like I am, just take a couple more breaths and then make sure that you switch your gaze over to the other side just to balance out through your neck. your head back through center. And hopefully you can still see me here. I'm hoping that my voice is clear enough as well. If anybody's having a hard time hearing me, if I'm not speaking clearly or loud enough. The camera's quite far away from me so that you've got a good view. Please just leave a comment and let me know. I can raise the volume of my voice. So from child's pose, we're going to come into frog. So the difference being, so child's pose, my hips are down on my heels. For frog, I'm going to keep my knees wide and I'm going to come forward and I'm going to lower my chest down, but you'll see my hips and my knees are staying sort of stacked here. Taking my knees a bit wider. You'll notice I've made a sort of cross of 2 yoga mats here. So you might want to go sideways on your yoga mat so that there's some cushioning underneath of your knees, particularly if you're on hard floor. And then from here, you can take your pillow. I'm actually going to raise it a bit. There we go. So that I am feeling this in my inner thighs, inner groin area. And so Ryan and Claire, you can't see them. They're in the background doing this with you guys. Are you guys feeling it in that area? Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. And so now in frog, I don't think on Facebook or Instagram you guys can see my feet, unfortunately. But my feet, my shins are coming out long from my knees, and my feet are angled out. And the more I angle my feet out, the more I splay my feet out, think of a pair of frog's legs, the more I'm going to feel this through my hips. So I've just taken my lower part of my legs, my shins, my feet out wider. And I'm feeling quite a bit. I'm just going to turn for a moment. If there's anyone who's confused, if you want to safely and slowly come out so that you can see me. You're going to see my bum. I want to show you what I mean by that positioning of legs here. So you'll see my hips and my knees are stacked. You can have toes together. I'm not feeling as much here. Or that frog leg. I'm taking my feet out wide, splaying my legs, letting my chest melt down towards the floor, letting my knees slide open and away from each other. I'm getting more sensation through my hips. I'm just coming in to check. Yeah, that's clear for everybody. Feel free to leave a comment if you are unclear. Frog is a tricky one to even teach in person, especially teaching it over Facebook and Instagram Live. So if anyone's not clear, please don't be shy. You're probably not the only one. Feel free to ask a question. I'm going to be here for another minute or two. So try to support the weight of your chest, your head. For some of you, you might be able to sink right down to the floor and send your knees quite wide. But for most of us, you're probably going to be more like me. A little bit more elevated up. So you're going to need that support underneath of your chest. Remember, this is not child's pose. So my hips are lifted. My knees are splayed out wide. It's a different shape with a different intention. Check in with your breathing here. These hip opening postures can be quite intense, so notice if you're shortening or restricting your breath in any way, or if you're particularly clenching through your jaw, grinding your teeth. Maybe open and close your mouth a couple times. Rotate through your jaw. Just relaxing those muscles. Interesting little fact here. The fascial tissue in our hips is greatly influenced by that in our jaw. So when one is tight, so is the other. Those of you who have given birth to a child might have heard this from a midwife, a doula, a nurse, a doctor. And riding through contractions, relaxing through the hips, they'll often tell you to likewise relax through your jaw, your neck muscles, shoulder muscles. Last minute here. Just taking about 3 or 4 more breaths here, but making them just a little bit deeper, a little bit more intentional, just knowing that movement is coming here. Slowly preparing for the transition out. We exit these poses very slowly, very mindfully. Staying here in this basic shape, just for those of you who have your legs more splayed, feet out, that very frog-like leg positioning, start by just bringing your feet towards center. And placing your hands down on the mat in front of you. Slowly push yourself up away from the floor and back. Bring your knees together. Close your knees, close your legs. We're going to do a narrow knee child's pose now. Bringing that pillow in front of you, folding over top. Just rounding through your spine, feeling your hips close, come back together. Take a couple breaths here. Okay. Preparing for our next shape now. So coming up out of this into a tabletop shape. And this is where you will want those blocks or water bottles of equal height. We're going to be doing dragon. So just something to rest your hands on, possibly. You might not need them. So for dragon, you start in this tabletop-like shape. So my spine is neutral. I'm on my hands and knees. I'm going to step right foot forward and through. Now you can keep your right foot in between your hands at center and start to melt your hips forward. Or you can bring your right foot out more towards the edge of your mat and start to melt your hips forward. Now, your hands might not quite reach the ground like I'm demonstrating here, in which case this is where the blocks come in handy. You could have 2 blocks, stay a bit more upright and lifted, 2 water bottles, a stack of books, maybe even a coffee table. And get creative with what's around you. My back leg is long behind me. So again, I'm just going to turn so that you can see what I mean by that. So this is the general setup shape, and then melting hips forward. Okay, so from here to here. Your knee's going to track a little bit forward. That's okay. It's not drastically going forward. It's not going past my toes or anything here. It's just a subtle little shift. Now this, for many of you, might be enough. You can stay right where you are. Or If you had blocks, maybe you try coming lower down. You can also start to roll that right knee out. Just taking it a bit more towards the side. And you'll see I'm rolling onto the outer edge of my foot. So I'm getting into both hips here. I'm lengthening the psoas muscle in the leg that's extended behind me. It's a deep hip flexor muscle. And I'm also getting some nice external rotation here in my right hip. Some of you might want to just leave your left hand down, bring your right hand up, and also get a little bit of a twist here. So the theme for today's class was hips and twists. So sort of choose your own adventure. Stay within basic dragon or enjoy a bit of a twist. If you need to back off at any point, change the shape slightly, go ahead and do so. Remember, in a yin practice, this is not about achieving like an aesthetic perfection. It's not about how you look. It's not about perfect alignment. It's also not about going to 110% of your depth. So as I'm saying this, I'm realizing, yeah, Cami, you can back off a little bit. I'm going to come up higher on my blocks. Give myself a little bit more ease and grace here. Because I know that these poses, these yin poses, as we're holding them, they build in intensity. So you don't want to go to 110 right away. Notice what dragon pose is doing to your thoughts, your breath, your heart rate. This is quite an intense pose for many people, myself included. You can see many of the students from the studio are watching. You guys will probably remember my jokes about how I don't need a hot room. I just need to do dragon pose. And I'll start sweating. I'm already sweating. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Flutter your lips. Remember, relax these muscles through your lips, your jaw, to relax through your hips. Do it again. Maybe open your jaw. Make silly faces, stick your tongue out. 3 more breaths. Last 2. Final deep breath here. Dragon is my nemesis too, Candace. All right, slowly, just start to lean back slightly. There we go, releasing that back hip. And you'll see my right leg is still in front. Bit of a tricky transition here, but let's try it. You're gonna take your right foot, walk it over to the left side of your mat, and drop that right hip down. Bring your left leg up in a zigzag shape. So this is deer pose. So hopefully you can see my front shin is sort of roughly, these are all rough guides, parallel to the top of my mat or to the screen. My back shin is roughly parallel to this wall beside me. So it's a zigzag shape. And then you fold forward. So this is another hip opening posture, but we're working a different part of the hip here. There's also a little bit of a twist happening again, right? Our theme of hips and twists. You'll see I brought my blocks in front of me here to start. I'm going to rest my forearms on the blocks. This could also be a pillow or something. And just close your eyes and notice where you're feeling deer here today. So I know for me, I am feeling it in my outer right hip because that hip is in external rotation. And my back hip, my left hip, I'm feeling it inside because it's in internal rotation. That might not be true for you. You might be feeling it somewhere else. That's perfectly okay. And I know that while this does feel good, I know that it could feel a bit better if I just adjust myself slightly. So I'm actually going to take away these blocks. I'm going to bring my forearms down towards the ground and instead place my forehead on the block. And now I'm getting a lot more sensation in that front hip. Noticing again if there's any unnecessary tension, particularly in jaw, clenching your teeth, the muscles of your neck, your face. Try to soften these areas as best as you can. You can also adjust the positioning of your upper body here. I'm coming through center, but you might notice I am slightly angled a bit more towards the right side of center. You can play with that. You can go further off towards the right if you want. You can come more dead through center. You can even go a bit more towards the left. They will all feel slightly different. Sometimes the smallest, most subtle little shift can have a really, really big impact on a yin pose. Deer is an alternative to what's known as pigeon in like a traditional hatha class or in a yin class, swan. It's a bit more of a gentle hip opener, a bit more sustainable for knees and low back. Last 30 seconds here. Start to take a deep inhale. Exhale out your mouth. Again, big breath in. Big breath out. Now, again, listening carefully here. This is another one that's a bit of a tricky transition, but I think we can do it. I believe in us, guys. Okay. You'll notice I've just come, my legs are still in this shape. I've just come up onto my hands. We're on our right hip. Remember, if you're watching on a screen, I'm flipped, so it's going to look like I'm doing the opposite of you. Don't worry about that. Just take note of your right hip that's on the bottom. You're going to come onto your right side. I'm keeping that right knee bent. My right arm down for now. Left leg is going long towards that wall that's beside me. I'm going to come down onto my right side, rest my head in my hands, and I'm going to reach my left hand back and behind me and hold on to my left foot and pull my left foot up towards my glute muscles towards my bum. This is called cat pulling its tail. Now I can stay like this. I'm hoping, oh yeah, good, you guys can see me. I can stay like this, or I can take my head out of my hands and I can roll my left shoulder down towards the mat. I'm coming more onto my back for a bit more of a twisted version. Now you can change the angle of this leg that's extended straight. You can walk it up a bit higher or a bit lower. You're looking to feel something, this is your IT band. So the length of the top of this leg might be quite subtle at first. It'll start to bend, build. And then of course the bent knee that's underneath of me, my right, and I'm reaching back and I'm holding onto it with my left hand here. I'm feeling that in my quad. So I'm going to turn this way. If anyone's unclear, come up, take a look and watch. So here I am, I'm on my right side. Left leg is extended long towards you, so you can see this straight left leg. Coming down onto that right side. Here's my bent foot. I'm going to reach up and back, hold on to that foot. Pull that foot towards my glute. So like how you would pull for dancers. Can stay upright, or I can lower and roll onto my back body. Cat pulling its tail. It's a bit more of an active yin pose. A little bit more happening here. We won't be in this shape for quite as long. Simple thing you can do to change sensation in this straight leg, if you're not feeling anything in your IT band, is just angle your toes up towards your shin. And then, I know if I do that, suddenly I'm feeling a lot more in that straight leg, versus if I soften my toes and release. Three more breaths here. Now, if you are lowered down onto the ground like I am, just start by coming back onto that right side, head into your hands. Release the foot. There we go. Bring that left leg down. And just pause here to just lie on your side for a moment. Take a deep breath in. And out. One more time. All right. Coming up from lying on your side, back into that tabletop shape. Okay, and so just while I'm here, I'm just going to double check, make sure that that was clear. If anybody has a question about that pose, cat pulling its tail, or anything else, great time to type it. Like I said before, there's no such thing as stupid questions. Chances are someone else is probably thinking the same thing. So feel free to ask away. Otherwise, I'm just going to assume that we're okay. Excuse me. And we're going to go right into the other side of dragon. Yay, right, Candace? Ryan's giving me dirty looks. Okay, so in dragon, it was our right leg that was forward. So obviously, we're just going to switch sides. Remember that you're watching a screen, so I'm mirrored from you. It'll look like I'm doing the other side, but we're doing our left. So here we go on tabletop. Left leg forward. And remember, turn to the side here. We're coming from this shape, right, into this shape. So we're intentionally melting the hips, melting the pelvis forward. Your knees naturally, your front knee is naturally going to track forward a little bit. You can roll up your mat behind you if that back knee, in fact, I am going to do that, if that back knee is a little tender. And you can have your your left foot in center, or as I'm doing, off to the side, off to the left side of your mat. So while your hips are melting forward, notice if you're overarching through your low back. So try to keep your low back nice and long and spacious here. There is a very, very subtle, soft little draw in through your low belly, just to help keep your low back nice and long. Nothing major. You can bring your hands onto blocks if you want. I do recommend starting a bit higher in dragon and eventually working your way deeper. Right, like we discovered on the other side, this pose in particular will build. You can start to roll onto the outer edge of that left foot if you have not already done so, if you're looking to get a bit more sensation through your front hip as well as your back. Option to place your right hand down, bring your left hand onto that left leg, and twist. And so I'm just twisting my upper body towards the left a little bit here. But I'm actually going to come back through center for me. As much as I love twists on this side, it's not quite working for me. Can tell through what I'm feeling through my low back, I'm losing a little bit of integrity in the pose. And so to keep my low back nice and happy, I'm just going to stay in center. Take a deep breath in. Right? Soft flutter lips. Open and close your jaw. Right? No one can see you. You can all see me, so I'll just make a fool of myself for you. Stick your tongue out. Let out a sigh. Maybe roll through your neck a couple times. Couple more breaths. Okay. Start by just angling your hips back. You'll see I'm just shifting back, releasing through that back leg. Remember, we're going to come into deer from here, just like we did on the other side. So this left foot comes over towards the right side, and my left knee is going to come down and bring my back leg up. So you can hopefully see this zigzag shape. And then choosing how you would like to come forward, settling into deer. And so just this simple act of, from upright you might not feel very much, probably going to feel it more in your back hip actually. And you might even want to stay here. This might be something, an area that you want to work on, that you want to target. But if you're looking for more of that deep hip stretch, sort of similar to pigeon pose, that's where you start to hinge from your hips. Keep a long spine to start. As you come forward, take a few breaths, checking in to see how it feels, and then maybe softening even more, forehead to the ground or forearms to the ground, or maybe to a block. As you breathe in, just notice that you are breathing in. Be aware of that breath in. And same thing as you breathe out. You could silently say to yourself, I am breathing in. And I am breathing out. You can also direct your next inhale instead to the area of sensation. So imagine that you could sort of intentionally send that breath to the area where you're feeling this. So breathing into where in your hip this pose is most evident. Visualizing that with every breath in that you send to that space, it's becoming a bit softer, wider, and more expansive. Take 4 more breaths here. And slowly placing your hands down, walking your hands in towards your body. I'm going to come into cat pulling its tail here on the other side. So remember, the side of the leg that's in front, that's the side that you're going to be lying on. So last time we were lying on our right side, now we're lying on our left side. That left knee is going to stay bent. So here I am, bent left knee. Left side of my body is coming down onto the ground. My right leg is going long. There we go. So you can see me, yeah, head's coming into my hands. And I'm going to reach my arm up and back and hold on to the foot of the bent leg that's beneath me. So my right hand is holding on to my left foot. I'm pulling my left foot towards my glute, towards my bum. I'm getting a stretch in my quad. My right leg that is extended, I am going to play with how high it is. It might not be able to come straight, and that's okay. You can have a bend in the knee. You can also place a block underneath of this leg if you need a bit of support. So there we go, for example. There's a block underneath of my leg. Now you can stay in this version, or if you're looking to add a bit of a twist, take your head out of your hands and start to roll onto your backside. Let your right shoulder be heavy. And now to get more sensation out of the leg, the straight leg, maybe try just pulling your toes, flexing them up towards your shin. I'm going to try adjusting the position of my body so that people can see a bit more clearly. So there's the extended leg, right? My bottom leg is bent. Right hand reaches back, holds on. Flexing my toes, you see what I mean? Toes point or toes flex in the straight leg. Now I'm feeling more in my IT bend by flexing my toes. I'm going to take my head out of my hands and I'm going to allow my right shoulder to become heavy. And now there's a lot happening here, so I'm working on my quad, I'm working on my IT band, my spine's getting a little twist here. See if you can just breathe. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Exhale out your mouth. One more time, breathe in. And out. And remember, we're going to come so that head's back in hand first if you left. So I'm bringing my head back into that left hand, releasing my back foot. The leg that was straight, bring it back on top. So you're just coming to lie on your side for a moment here. Just like if you were lying in bed, like you'd just woken up, just take a couple breaths here. Now from here, we're going to roll over onto our backs for our final pose. So come to lie on your back. Soles of the feet on the mat for now. Knees point up towards the ceiling. Again, getting into our hip flexors here. We're going to come into butterfly, so bringing the soles of your feet together and allowing your knees to fall towards the left and right sides of your mat. Hands can just gently rest on your belly to feel the rise and fall of your breath. So breathe into the backs of your hands. Deep breath in. And out. Inhale, belly rises. Exhale, belly falls. Staying here, settling into this pose, knowing that the closer your heels are towards your pelvis, the more sensation you're going to feel here. If you would like to reduce sensation, you could try taking your heels a bit further away from your pelvis. You can also take those blocks or stacks of books that we used earlier and you can place them underneath of your knees. This will close off this distance between floor and thigh or floor and knee. Offers a little bit more support. And in fact, this is actually a great tool in a yin class because sometimes when our legs are kind of hovering here, your muscles get in the way of the pose. So I'm actually going to take both of my blocks here I am going to place them underneath of my knees, underneath of my thighs, so that they have something to rest on. And now my muscles feel supported. They can sort of turn off. That way they can get out of the way. And I can go a bit deeper, go to another layer here, get back to that fascia, that connective tissue. So tendons and ligaments, these hip flexors, these things can all receive more benefit from the pose. And then just continue to observe that slow rise and fall of your belly. Staying with that observation of breath and movement through your belly, through your diaphragm, your rib cage. Maybe even noticing how your back moves, how it responds to your breath, the back of your rib cage against the floor beneath you. As you breathe in, feel the back of your rib cage sort of melt and expand into the floor, and also feel your belly rise up into your hands. And as you exhale, feel them draw back together. Sometimes when I'm working with my breath like this in a pose, I visualize in my mind's eye a cathedral. Or if a cathedral isn't a comfortable vision for you, maybe just think of a very high ceilinged room or a castle with a vaulted ceiling. Just think of something very big and spacious. Imagine that you are creating that within you. And that's actually why I like to work with that vision of a cathedral, a sacred space, envisioning that my body is that sacred space. Your body as a temple. Fill that sacred space with your breath. Choosing if you would like to stay here within this pose, working with breath in that manner, or whenever you're ready, you can start to send your legs long and come into final Shavasana. So legs long, arms long, gently closing your eyes and letting your body rest into the floor. Taking a moment here to take stock of all of the poses that we just did. So feeling those areas, hips and the IT band, those twists through our back. Letting all of these poses sort of just settle into our body. And our body into the mat. from the mat into the floor, from the floor into the earth. Staying just as you are, simply breathing. When you hear the sound of the bell, you will know that our time together is complete. However, if you wish to stay longer, you are always welcome to do so. The sound of the bell will just signify that I am ending my time with you. However, stay here and rest as long as your body calls to you.